Following the Civil War, Texas experienced new agricultural opportunities. However, cotton remained the mainstay of the state's crop production. Farmers continued to grow cotton because they already possessed the necessary equipment, experience, and knowledge, and the crop remained profitable. Compared to other crops such as sugar, cotton was less expensive to produce, less labor-intensive, more drought-resistant, and non-perishable. Despite the end of slavery, cotton production in Texas remained close to antebellum levels. The 1860 census is significant because it was the last census to record agricultural production under slavery. That year, Texas farms produced nearly 432,000 bales of cotton. By 1870, production fell to approximately 351,000 bales. However, by 1880, Texas farmers produced more than 805,000 bales. This increase can be attributed to several factors. First, railroad expansion greatly improved access to national markets. Cities in central Texas gained rail connections that allowed farmers to transport their cotton more efficiently. Second, cotton production expanded into new areas of the state. The development of a new steel plow made it possible to break the tough prairie soils, enabling cotton cultivation to spread westward. Although increased production appeared beneficial, there were limits to how much cotton could be grown without serious economic consequences. The fundamental problem was overproduction. When cotton output exceeded demand, prices began to fall. In 1870, cotton sold for approximately 16 cents per pound, but by 1890, the price had dropped to about 8 cents per pound. Falling prices had their roots in the Civil War. During the conflict, the Confederacy attempted to use cotton as leverage for diplomatic recognition by cutting off exports. Southern leaders believed that British dependence on cotton would force intervention on their behalf. However, recognition never came. Instead, Britain turned to alternative sources of cotton in Brazil, Egypt, and India. After the war, Southern cotton returned to the global market, further increasing supply and causing it to exceed demand. Unfortunately, farmers had few alternatives and often responded to falling prices by growing even more cotton, which only drove prices lower. Over time, many farmers found themselves unable to purchase land and instead became tenant farmers or sharecroppers. Tenant farming was similar to renting property. Farmers did not own the land and typically paid landlords up to 1/3 of their crop as rent, attempting to survive on what remained. A poor harvest could leave an entire family trapped in poverty. By 1890, roughly half of all Texas farmers were tenants. At the bottom of this agricultural hierarchy were sharecroppers. Unlike tenant farmers, sharecroppers did not rent land and owned no equipment. They worked land owned by others and received a share of the crop after expenses were deducted. These expenses, supplies, seed, tools, and food, often exceeded the value of their share, trapping sharecroppers in an ever-deepening cycle of debt. Landowners frequently dictated what crops sharecroppers grew, usually insisting on cotton because it was easy to manage and market. This practice further increased cotton production, pushing prices down even more. By the late 19th century, a majority of Texas farmers were unable to own land, heavily indebted, restricted in their agricultural choices, and struggling to provide for their families. Faced with worsening conditions, farmers began to seek solutions through collective action. In response, they organized and formed groups to represent their economic and political interests.